This is going to be my review for The Blinding Knife, Book 2 in the Lightbringer series that I really, really love. It's one of the best series I've read in a long time, the best one I've definitely read this year, and really wanted to jump in, wanted to show you guys my excitement for this series. There are definitely going to be spoilers in this, so I definitely want you guys to go check out the other videos that I've got. I'll link them up above and in the description. They have more of an overview on the series itself, and I have one also on Book 1 that is a spoiler-filled review on Book 1. So a series review and Book 1 review. This is Book 2 review. It's going to be right here. I'm going to try to put it right here because I don't have the physical book on me at the moment. I listened to it on audiobook this time. Let my mom borrow it, but it's going to be in hopefully this area. So when you have a great Book 1, what do you do to follow it up? Well, you write a great Book 2. Even in my opinion, even a better Book 2, a better book than Book 1 was. I enjoyed Book 2 so much. So when you've got a great Book 1, the next step is to write a great Book 2. And I think Brent Weeks really knocked it out of the park with this one. This is probably, it topped Book 1 for me, and I rated Book 1 as a 5-star. I really wanted to dive into this one. I was really actually nervous with how much I liked Gavin at the end of Book 1, that I knew that he was getting stabbed with the blinding knife, or, I don't know if we knew the name back then. But as we come to find out, the blinding knife is going to steal all his colors, and he's losing blue, and that means he's dying. So for me personally, I was actually kind of scared to read Book 2. I was like, oh, Gavin's dying. He's going to die before the end of the series. Spoiler here, he makes it all the way through the end of the book. And as much as he goes through stuff in here, I was excited to really get into Kip. I was probably the minority here where I liked Kip a lot in Book 1, and I feel like most people didn't, but at least from the reviews I heard, they kind of said Kip was annoying. I never felt that way, and I'm really excited that Kip gets to really shine in this one. I felt like he did such a better job of just being a good dude in this one, where in the last one where he wanted to be a good dude but had not taken that next step yet. And I think he was really working hard in this one to become a better man. So we get some great new characters, and old characters are flushed out, and we really learn a lot more about them. So we got Tia. She's hilarious. The way that Kip and Tia first meet, where he thinks she's a boy, that had me rolling laughing. When he meets Janice Borg, she's really, really cool, and Cruxer, for a side character, is becoming one of my favorite characters in the whole series. He's really a cool guy. He is the stereotypical commander. He does a great job really taking charge of this group, and it's exciting to see Kip come under the leadership of a guy like that. Now, I recently started playing Magic the Gathering at Dragon Con, not last year, but the year before. I got my first set of Magic cards. They gave it to us, and me and my son started playing. As a new Magic user, I assume that other people who play Magic would really, really dig into this. I am a beginner, and I saw a lot of, using mana to tap and things like that. And so it was really neat to see that flushed out. I thought it was a really cool dynamic where Andros uses the cards in Nine Kings to really get you distracted and then make you think. It was really interesting to see the way he was crafting Kip. He comes across as a horrible person, but when you kind of look at what he does for Kip through the book, he, in his own horrible way, is making Kip stronger. And you kind of can tell from like an outside perspective, I don't think Kip would ever see it, but from an outside perspective, that Andros is really trying to make him a guile, trying to encourage his negative aspects, I guess. And it's neat to see a character do that in a way that we feel he's a villain. Kip thinks he's a villain. He doesn't think he's a villain. He thinks he's just driven. And it's really dynamic the way that the two characters interact. You see a young guy who shoots off with the mouth all the time in Kip, and then Andros, who we find out later is a white. And the way that they're sparring, Andros has trouble controlling his temper, Kip has trouble controlling his mouth, and they're both trying to maneuver one another. It's really interesting. It's one of the best parts of the whole series. I thought it was done so well, just the dynamic. Thinking of two people sitting in a room, and I can't stop reading those chapters. So that was done so well, and I really appreciated it. So for me, the religion was really, really interesting. The way that Brent Weeks tied in, very Christian heavy themes, where, he talked about Gavin as a savior, and he talked about how he was going to leave and go make a place for them, which really is a shadow to what Christ did when he ascended to heaven. And he said, I'm going to go prepare a way for you in heaven, and I'm going to build you mansions of gold. And so Gavin's building these houses out of yellow bricks, yellow luxon, which looks like gold. And, this is right after he fights the sea demon, which in Revelation, there's a demon who comes out of the sea, which is a representation of Satan. And that's really neat how Britt Weeks tied that in. And then Aram and Ben-Hadad and a few other names come straight out of the Bible. I found in like one line in First Kings, Ben-Hadad was the king of the country of Aram. And so it's neat how he pulls so heavy from the Bible. And I've always felt like Christianity had its deep roots in fantasy. And it's really neat to see the parallels there, especially as a Christian, where I can feel like we're represented, even though in a lot of times in culture today, it's not. And it's not preachy at the same hand. It's a reference that makes a lot of sense, makes you think about your religion. As we go with Gavin through some of his flashbacks, we really get to see him with the freeing and how much that affects him, and the way that he is having to ritually kill these people. And it's really, really touching for the religious aspect. For me as a Christian, who my faith is important to me, it's really awesome to see this in a book. And it feels in a way where it's not in your face, and people who don't feel the same way I do are not going to feel offended by it, or I don't think they would, because it's a reference through this fantasy world. And it's great to see that tie-in for me personally, and I hope it's interesting for other people to look at as well. Now, the math and the Blackguard training is really, really interesting. He actually talks about it in his foreword or his afterword, I can't remember which one, but he said that he actually had people have to help him keep up with who was what number and how that worked. And it really worked out where it was an interesting system where you can prove your dominance by fighting. And I thought it was a really interesting dynamic. I know some people think it kind of drags on a little bit, but for me, that Blackguard training and the way that they move through the ranks was really interesting. I dug into it deeply because I thought it was so neat and so cool. Then when they get to Seer's Island and they meet the Third Eye, she is really, really interesting. As an oracle who listens to what God has to say and then tries to discern it, it kind of reminded me of men in the way that men interacted with the world in the Wheel of Time series. So really, I thought it was really neat because you don't get the full story. She kind of gets some images or some thoughts, and then she has to interpret them to be useful for other people. That was really, really cool. I thought it was neat. And it frustrated Gavin when he's like, oh, I got to find the Bane. I got to go find this. And she's like, well, I can tell you this. I can tell you that. And then when it comes together, it all clicks into place for him. And that really frustrates me because you look at Gavin's faith, and I understand Gavin really struggled with the freeing, and I understand that's why his faith is broken. But for him to see all the things the Third Eye can do, and all the things that he's been blessed with, and all those things with the Bane and the gods, and why he doesn't turn back to faith, or really just, I feel like it's selfishness. And I feel like through Gavin, he's such a selfish character that he has to hold on to everything. He has to hold on to his lies. He has to hold on to, he's not even Gavin, but he's holding on to that name. He holds on to it with, he's been the greatest prism for 16 years, and he can't even use his real name. You don't think people would go, we don't care that you're Dazen. It would probably be a shock to people, but the idea that if he came out and said, yes, this has been me for 16 years, this has been me, and yeah, I'm really Dazen, but I've done a good job. It's frustrating to think that he never takes that step. He tells Karis about it. Karis is willing and accepting. You don't think if he came out to Kip and talked to Kip and said, hey, Kip, I'm actually your uncle. I'm not really your dad, but I care about you, and I want to take care of you, and I did kill your dad, and I'm sorry. He's like, oh no, Kip will hate me. Kip never knew his dad, but he knows Dazen, and he loves Dazen. He idolizes Dazen. It's just so frustrating because in Dazen's selfishness, he can't let it go. But once he does find the Blue Bane, it's way too easy. He basically marches up, cuts his head off with a sword, and the thing falls apart. And then, he feels awful because he's cutting them up with his boat, but or he's cutting all the whites up with his boat. And yeah, like it felt like, yeah, it should have been a big moment, but it didn't feel big to me. And that's why when we get to the green bane, eventually it feels so much more real, because it didn't feel easy. It felt like it was a true struggle. It felt like, and I know he gets to the blue bane before he comes out, and maybe that's what they're trying to show, or maybe that's what Brent Weeks was trying to show. But with it being so easy, you kind of get this like, oh, well, if Days and Gavin can do anything. So really, the blue bane being so easy, I'm just like, meh, whatever. Now, the Nine Kings cards, when you have the first one where you hear tap, super violet, tap, red, tap, blue, tap, I had no idea what that was at the beginning of the book. But when I finally figured it out, that Kip is seeing cards, that he is, he's got these cards and he's learning about them, and he's doing, putting his fingers in drafting and kind of seeing what other people are seeing. Man, I was excited. I was on my lunch break and I was reading, and I was like, woo, yeah. It was actually a really cool moment for me when I figured it out. It was like a light bulb moment. It was like, that's what he's doing. And so then I went back and I read every one of them. I was like, oh, this is, this was a moment, this was a moment, this was a moment. So that was really, really cool. And I was excited to see that. That was one of those things where, you don't understand it, and then all of a sudden it clicks and you're like, I get it. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. But getting back to Gavin's selfishness, man, when he throws Anna off the balcony, that was awful. Like, I hated that part of the book. And then the fact that the Blackguards cover for him, and I know that they idolize him. I mean, Gavin Grayling is named after Gavin. It's one of those things where it's like, oh my goodness, this is, but, Karis accepts it. The Blackguards lie for him. It's one of those things where everybody just goes, oh yeah, sure. Let a girl get thrown off the side of a balcony and exploded into pieces. That was pretty awful. I did not like that at all. Man, I really did not like the way that they handled Marissa's relationship. I know she loves him, and I know she's probably willing to do anything for him, but basically, she was used for years and years and years, fell in love with a guy who treated her well, but was her owner, and then all of a sudden Karis comes into the picture, and she's just supposed to pretend she doesn't care about this guy that she's had for years and years and years, and has felt loved by him, when, go in Gavin's mind, he didn't love her. He was just enjoying her. And really, at the beginning of this book, I didn't want to read it because I thought Gavin was going to die, because I loved Gavin's character so much. By the end of the book, I like Kip's character, and I'm really disappointed in who Gavin is. He kind of redeems himself at the end when he takes the knife for Kip. But for the most part, I have totally fallen out of favor with Gavin. He's one of those guys where, yeah, he's awesome. He does some great things. He does some amazing things. But I am not as enamored with him as I was initially. I've truly moved my focus to Kip, and even Iron Fist as a mentor for Kip, where Gavin, it's nice that he cares about his adopted son, but yeah, man, Gavin, he does some cool stuff when, he kicks Tysus off of the council and gives Corvin that seat as a satrap and gets him a seat on the council, or of the Spectrum, not the council. And he does some amazing things, but man, by the end of this book, I didn't give a crap that Gunn had put him on an oar. I really didn't. At that point in the story, I was Team Kip, and I was, I didn't like the way Karis handled all of it. I don't think she in any way handled it well. She gave him so much crap when they were on the island on, are you gonna sleep with the third eye? And then as it went on, you get, he cares for her, and she's just being awful to him. And I don't know if, what they were trying to prove with her, but the more the series goes along, the less I like Karis. She just accepts that, oh, well, he loves me, and he threw this girl off a balcony because she tricked him into sleeping with her. and Karis is just okay with it. And then she's kind of awful to Marissa, where Marissa's afraid to even be around her. I can't really get behind that. I don't like it at all. I really, really wish that we got more of Corbin and more of Liv. The times we did get with Liv, she made bad decisions. She ends up sleeping with Zyman and gets in a really weird relationship with him. As she's trying to work with the color prints, it's weird. She's being devoted to him, but he's kind of not sure what she wants yet. He's got some big plan for her, and then we see in the Battle of Rue where he gets her to use the lens with her super violet, and we understand she's useful and she's the most powerful super violet drafter he has, but he has these big plans for her he's not telling her yet. She has all these opportunities to come back, and she just chooses to go farther into it. She can't even go outside by herself because she's surrounded by these freed slave rapists that worked in the silver mines. I mean, it was awful to think that she just went along with them catapulting women over walls. She said, oh, I understand why this is necessary. Okay, so you don't like the way the Chromaria is doing stuff, so you're willing to go work with a more brutal and worse faction? I'm sorry, no. How's your logic so flawed in that? Really, I wish that we had better female characters in this one. I mean, Tia's neat. She's really coming to her own. I like her a lot. I like the Kip-Tia dynamic where they're friends and they're young and they don't know what they are. That's really cool. I like that. But I'm starting to dislike Karis more and more. She's willing to go along with things that a normal person shouldn't go along with. Viv is making bad decisions. So, but that's great, because these character moments that we go, none of these people are perfect. Not a single one of them are even close to being perfect. So he does what he intends to do here. He really gives you character dynamics that make you go, man, this is interesting. This is cool. This is, fun to look at and wonder. But gosh, these characters are so hard to like. Except for Kip. I really like Kip and Cruxer and Iron Fist. Okay, I like some of the characters. And then I'm disliking some of the characters. Man, can Brent Weeks write some battle scenes. The way that it ends with the battle on Rue, you've got like a 4-part battle here where you've got them taking Runic Head, you got the fight on the pyramid, you've got the fight for the Bane, you got the fight on the boats, and then you're sitting there and you've got Kip and Karis and Gavin and that one other Blackguard. They're fighting all the whites, and you really get to see what the knife does as Kip is running around stabbing, poking folks. And we learn that the Bane controls anyone that has that color. That was really, really cool to kind of throw in there, where all of a sudden Kip and Karis are immobilized, and the dude just wraps some vines around Gavin and locks him in. And, that really is scary for the future of the battle. Neat to see as they get done, where Andros is a white. And we learn a lot about the fact that, oh, well, maybe this guy really was unhinged and kind of crazy. And then Kip goes to stab him. That doesn't work out well because Kip makes bad decisions, especially he was drinking. So, and then Grinwoody goes and is going to kill Kip, and Gavin takes the sword in his chest and gets thrown off the side of the boat, and Gunnar picks him up. And so the ending was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed that. I hope that my love for this book really comes through, how excited I was to read it, how excited I was to, I bought the physical copy. I got it on Audible. I listened to both of them. It was great. It was neat to see the words pronounced. When I did my Lightbringer magic system explained, I've always thought it was chromalurgy, but it's chromaturgy. And since I watch blacksmithing videos, I think of metallurgy when you're working with metal. And so when I thought of them working with the magic, that it would be chromalurgy. Well, it's chromaturgy. And I have to admit, I think chromalurgy is better. And that's why it sticks in my head. Chromaturgy doesn't sound as good. It kind of sounds like turd. Hey, I didn't write the book. He did a much better job than I could have ever done, I think. So I'll definitely have my review for you guys on book 3 in the next week or two. I'm currently about halfway through book 5. Going to finish up the series, do a whole wrap up, may even do some summaries for you guys. If you want to see that, let me know in the description, or let me know in the comments down below. I'll get that for you. So in conclusion, I'd like to say, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you could share it, it'd be awesome. Subscribe if you haven't. See you guys next time. Bye.